Lead singer of the Happy Mondays and self-proclaimed melon twister, Shaun Ryder, and the Fox News contributor across the pond, Tomi Lahren. So let me start with Shaun. Great to see you, Shaun.
Hi, Piers, you all right?
Good to see you. Now, this is a raging debate, and I spent a lot of time in America, where in 19 states now, marijuana is legal for American citizens, it ought to be said, not for non-American citizens. And, you know, we'll come to Tomi in a moment for her verdict on how that's all been going, but certainly massively more open about legalising this drug in America than we are here, which seems a little perverse. Do you think that we should be catching up with the Americans and moving to legalise it?
Well, I'm going to be quite controversial here, Piers, and call the Home Secretary a knob. Because draconian rules that, you know, turn it to Class A, I mean, what's that going to achieve? That's just ridiculous. It's draconian. And yeah, you know, I really thought whatever happens in America, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, it happens here. And we should be taxing it and we should be making money off it. Really. You know, we need to go forward. Going backwards, you know, we need to try something that hasn't been tried before.
In terms of cannabis itself,
I mean, get a certificate off your doctor.
Well, sure. Famously, cannabis, no one's ever OD'd on cannabis, right? It's impossible, pretty much. So it's no recorded case of somebody having a lethal overdose of cannabis. However, I was discussing
you just get moody and lazy.
Well, I was discussing it, though, before we came on air with some of my own team, and they have family members, some of them, who've had extremely bad experiences by taking too much marijuana. And you do read a lot of grim stories about people who get addicted to it. It ruins their lives. It's a gateway drug to more serious drugs. Well, what do you say to that argument?
Well, cannabis has got a built-in antidote, right? And the basic thing about it is you light it up and smoke it, and if you get paranoid, you know, you stop smoking it. You know, once I mean, I smoked for 15, 17 years. I got up one morning, lit up a joint, usual thing, wake up, skin up, and I got para. And I had another go, and I got para, and I didn't smoke it again. And that's the same with all my mates, you know, and everybody I know. So once you start getting para, you stop smoking it.
All right, let's bring in Tomi Lahren. Tomi,
there really isn't any long-term. You know, I'm not having it. You know, about. There's no withdrawal symptoms. They're not physical withdrawal symptoms. They're more mental. You know, I want it. That lasts for about a week. So, you know, it's just ridiculous. It really is draconian.
OK, let's come to Tomi. It's ridiculous and draconian that the new British Home Secretary is considering making this a Class A drug and incarcerating people for it. At the exact moment, President Biden is doing, of course, the opposite with Americans in relation to marijuana. How do you think this conversion of many American states to places where Americans can legally take this drug, how has that gone, Tomi?
Well, I'll tell you this, I don't usually believe in freedom infringement of really any kind, but I'll tell you, the states that have legalized in the United States, if you look at them and you look at their homeless population, their degenerate population, it has expanded wildly. I mean, just look at Denver, Colorado. It used to be a city that was very vibrant, very hardworking, and then they legalized pot. And now they have potheads laying on the side of the street. They have people that traveled there because pot was legalized. So I don't think it attracts the best of the best. You know, here in the United States, we allow the states to decide, and I'm honestly an advocate for states' rights. I think if you want to have a class of people that are potheads, that smoke weed, that maybe don't contribute a whole lot to society, your voters need to decide that. But I would tell you, tread lightly on this whole legalize everything, because we've also got states here in the United States that have said, hey, listen, heroin, all those other illicit drugs, they're not so bad either. We have shoot-up galleries where you can safely inject. I mean, we talk about a snowball effect. That's what you're seeing in the United States. So be careful what you wish for. It might seem like it's just all in good fun, just a little weed, until you've got potheads littering your streets, and then you might think a little differently.
But Tomi, do you think it's worse than alcohol, for example?
Well, hey, listen, I'm not here to say if it's worse or better than alcohol. I do know that there are more studies that are surfacing saying that the long-term effects of cannabis might be a little different than some people think. But when we talk about alcohol, people usually don't look at an alcoholic and say, yeah, that's safe, that's healthy, that's environmental. But when you look at people that habitually smoke weed, there's this connotation that comes with it that it's from the earth, it's natural, it's for the hippies. Well, take a longer look into that, and I think the studies are going to reveal that it might not be so green, wholesome, and wonderful on down the road. So it's really more the connotation that goes with it. People have been told it's natural, it's healthy, there's nothing wrong with it, you can't OD on it, and I think that's a very dangerous message to be putting out there, especially young people.
I mean, it might be a dangerous message, but it's actually a fact, I believe, that no one's ever medically OD'd on cannabis, whereas a lot of people have OD'd on alcohol. Alcohol seems to kill a lot more people than cannabis does. I'm not necessarily advocating that we legalise it here. I'm just saying those are two facts which make it interesting to me that we treat, as a society, alcohol in a more liberal, tolerant way than we treat cannabis. And I'm not quite sure why.
Well, I think also you mentioned nobody's OD'd. Well, that might be the case, but just because you're not overdosing and dying doesn't mean that there are not adverse effects. And I think we need to know those adverse effects. For so long, you know, the weed lobbying industry has said, oh, it's clean, it's natural, there's no problem, you're not going to OD on it. Again, a dangerous message. Let's also keep in mind that here in the United States, we're having a big problem with marijuana being laced with fentanyl. So this message that, oh, it's just weed, well, listen, you got to look a little deeper, got to get a little further under the hood. And then we also have to understand that because we don't have uniform regulation, a lot of this weed that's being grown, the fertilizers being used are not being regulated the right way. So there are other health side effects that go along with this beyond just overdose that really need to be looked at. And we got to get under the hood a little deeper.
Okay, but just final point back to you, Shaun. Does anything that Tomi say there make you rethink what you're saying about this?
Well, okay. So how does turning weed into a Class A drug solve the problem? You know, we've got a South American country there where the Prime Minister or the President has basically told, you know, his cops to go out and end people's lives on the street. Anyone who's doing drugs, shoot him, right? Kill him. And that doesn't stop him doing it. So how does turning it, giving it a Class A, solve that problem? And really what? So we're blaming the whole problem of homelessness and no jobs and everything else in America on what? Weed? Really? Come on.
All right, well, let's go with the final word to you, Tomi Lahren. Come on. Growled in a Mancunian accent.
No, I'm not saying our homeless crisis. I'm not saying our homeless crisis can entirely be blamed on weed. It's mostly blamed on Democrats and their policies here in the United States. But I'll tell you this: the cities and the states that have legalized, they have seen an influx of degenerates on their streets that come there because weed has been legalized. It doesn't attract the best of the best. Go to Denver, Colorado, go to Los Angeles, go to San Francisco, tell me what you see. And I'd also say this about the whole gateway drug thing. Not a lot of individuals start out with a needle in their arm. They start out with something else. So is it a domino effect? I have a feeling that there's something to that.
You know what? It's a fascinating debate, and I can't think of two more unlikely people to have come together to have it, and yet you both made great points. So I think we may have to do this pairing again. Thank you both very much. Shaun, Tomi, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Piers.